All right, guys. The socialist is back again. Now, we are still dealing on basic concept of government. So quickly, I'm going to be explaining the difference between sovereignty and legitimacy. Now, what is the difference between sovereignty and legitimacy? Take note. We have analyzed states, we've analyzed nation, we'll talk about the nation state, then we'll talk about what society. So we've analyzed those aspects. So the next guy is what we call sovereignty and legitimacy. Now, the guy we call sovereignty, what be sovereignty? First of all, note, sovereignty was actually got it from a Latin root called superanus. Sovereignty was gotten from a Latin root called superanus, and the word superanus means supremacy. You see, and so sovereignty was actually derived or got it from a Latin root called superanus, and the word superanus, what it mean? Now, what na supremacy. Now, from this superanus, we get supremacy. So we can now say that sovereignty is the supremacy of a state to make and enforce law with little or no interference, either from internal or external bodies. So you can also say that sovereignty can be defined as the absolute power of a state to make and enforce law without any interference. Class, another thing you should expect here, please, like I told you guys, sovereignty was gotten from a Latin root called superanus. The word superanus, what does it mean now? Supremacy. Where you keep on. Please note, the guy we call sovereignty, observe, sovereignty was actually propounded or founded by a French philosopher and a political thinker. The concept of sovereignty was founded or propounded or advocated by a French philosopher and a political thinker called Jean Bodin. The name of the man that propounded this concept of sovereignty in name written as Jean Bodin. And he propounded the concept of sovereignty in the year 1576. Cram the year. Some of you struggle with it. Cram this year. Who propounded sovereignty? Who is the father of sovereignty? Jean Bodin. Now, what will be the meaning of sovereignty? The supreme power of a state to make and enforce law with little or no what interference, either within or within an external force. Nobody should interfere into the law that have been made. And the founder of sovereignty, if you check your past question, they asked a question. They said, sovereignty is accredited to which of the following? Now, sovereignty is accredited to a man called Jean Bodin. Now, you can see a question like this. Jean Bodin is known as a Dutch philosopher, is known as a French philosopher, and a political thinker. Okay, I tell you now. Sovereignty was advocated by Jean Bodin in which year? In what year? It was in 1576. Then note, the man we call Jean Bodin, they asked a question. He lived from which year to which year? Jean Bodin lived between 1530 to 1596. Don't forget, please note, Jean Bodin lived between 1530 to 1596. But he propounded the concept of sovereignty in what year? 1576. Keep on. Oh, yeah, now let's talk about the other part we will look now, like the characteristics or features of sovereignty. What are the characteristics or features of sovereignty? Now, one of the feature or characteristics of sovereignty is what we call absoluteness. Another feature is what we call indivisibility. We also call permanent. Then we also have what we call sovereignty is also a feature of this guy too, of sovereignty. Yes, sovereignty is among, I will explain. Then we also have what we call comprehensiveness. We have what we call comprehensiveness. So one of the feature or characteristics of sovereignty is absoluteness. Now, when we say absoluteness, what do we mean? If you hear the word absoluteness, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it simply means that the supreme power of a state cannot be what? Cannot be restricted. When you say absoluteness, it simply means that the sovereign power of a state cannot be what? Restricted. Then when we say indivisibility, what do we mean? Indivisibility simply means that the sovereign power of a state can neither be shared or within or divided by other entity. Observe, when we hear the word absoluteness, wait in me, it means that the supreme power of a state cannot be restricted. But if we call here indivisibility, wait in me, it means that the supreme power of a state cannot be shared or divided by any other entity. Then you call here the guy permanent. What do we mean? It means that as long as a state continue to exist, class, as long as a state continue to exist, sovereignty remains. That's what we mean by permanent. As long as a state continue to exist, as long as a state is permanent, sovereignty remains. Then when we hear the word sovereignty, yes, you call the shocking and say, why sovereignty? Because it's among. When you say sovereignty is also a feature of sovereignty, it means that sovereignty simply refers to the symbol of any independent state. Now, they will ask you a question. Among all the feature of sovereignty, which of the following is a symbol of any independent state? Now, sovereignty. Which of the following cannot be shared or divided by any other entity is written as indivisibility? Then the supreme power of a state that cannot be restricted is called absoluteness. Then we have a girl called comprehensiveness, class. What it called be comprehensiveness? Comprehensiveness simply refers to the supreme power of a state that is wide and covers the whole territory. It is a process whereby the sovereign power of a state is wide and covers a whole territory. Please make sure you watch the video to the end, and if you have not gotten it, try to repeat the video so that you can understand properly. No rush, I beg. Take it step by step, poco a poco. I have explained this guy. So the characteristic of sovereignty is absoluteness, indivisibility, permanence, sovereignty, and comprehensiveness. Check out now, class. Talk to me now. Who is the founder of sovereignty? Jim Body. Now, he propounded the concept in what year? 1576. Keep on. Then this guy we call Jim Body lived from which year to which year? 1530 to waiting now 1596. Check. The word sovereignty was gotten from what now? A Latin root, not the Greek. Was gotten from a Latin root called superanos. See, that boy observe. The word superanos, what does it mean now? Supremacy. It is here. So this is the future or characteristics of sovereignty. Now, the other aspect we are going to cover for sovereignty is what we call the types of sovereignty. The types of sovereignty. Follow me, class. What are the types of sovereignty? What are the types of sovereignty? Oyamu Unakam. What are the types of sovereignty? Sian, types of sovereignty. Now, when we say types of sovereignty, number one is what we call political sovereignty. Number two is what we call legal sovereignty. We also have what we call de facto sovereignty. We have what we call de jure sovereignty. Observe, these are the major types of sovereignty. Some persons also tell you that we have internal and external sovereignty, you understand? But ladies and gentlemen, these are the major types of sovereignty. The major types of sovereignty. One, political sovereignty. Two, legal sovereignty. Three, de facto sovereignty. And four, de jure sovereignty. If you see the guy we call political sovereignty, what will be political sovereignty? Let me give you a shortcut. Political sovereignty is a type of sovereignty where powers is vested or power resides with the electorate. Political sovereignty is a type of sovereignty where power resides with the electorate. And don't forget, the political sovereignty can also be called popular sovereignty. Can also be called popular sovereignty. Or don't ask me before, what will be another name for political sovereignty? Another name for political sovereignty is called popular sovereignty. So a type of sovereignty where powers is actually vested in the electorate is called that. It is called political sovereignty. And don't forget, there is a difference between political sovereignty and legal sovereignty. Political sovereignty is a type of sovereignty where powers resides with the electorate. But legal sovereignty is a type of sovereignty that draws its power from the constitution. Political sovereignty power is vested in the electorate. See, legal sovereignty draws its power from the constitution. Check them out. You see, political sovereignty is a type of sovereignty where powers resides with the electorate. Another name for political sovereignty is called popular sovereignty. But check out, legal sovereignty is a type of sovereignty that draws its power from the constitution. Then what you call the difference between de facto and de jure sovereignty? Whenever you hear the word de facto, it means it makes use of force. And whenever you hear the word de jure sovereignty, it means it is legal. It is legal. It does not require force. De facto sovereignty is a type of sovereignty that applies force in making the citizens or the people obey the law. De facto sovereignty is a type of sovereignty that requires the use of force in making the citizens obey the law. Example of this de facto sovereignty is the military. You know, say when military dey power, they actually rule forcefully. They rule by force. They rule by force. It is by force. When the military take over power, the first thing they do is they suspend the constitution. They make their own law. They suspend the constitution. They undermine the law courts. They don't follow the constitution. They undermine the law courts. As a citizen, your fundamental human right is denied. You can observe. They say so. So, de facto sovereignty is a type of sovereignty that requires the use of force in making the people obey the law. And they can ask you which of the following is a good example of de facto sovereignty. Which of the following is a good example of de facto sovereignty? What will be the answer? Now, what is the military? The military is a good factor. Then come to school here. Then what we call the de jure sovereignty. When we say de jure sovereignty, it means that de jure sovereignty is actually legal. It's a type of sovereignty that does not require the use of force. It is the opposite of de facto sovereignty. It does not require the use of force. Follow me, Siamo. One of them they use force. Another one not they use force. Which one they use force to control the people? Now waiting na de facto. Which one they use force to control the people? Now waiting na de jure. So de jure sovereignty is legal. It is legal. It does not make use of force in controlling the waiting and the citizens or the people. And a good example of de jure is civilian. The civilian government is a good example where your rights is not denied, where you can express yourself. You can express yourself. So a good example of de facto is the military. De facto make your force. Then de jure is legal and it's applied by what? By the military. You understand? Okay. All right. Now the next part we are going to cover for sovereignty, very, very important. They don't ask them before. Where can sovereignty be located in a state? In a state, where can sovereignty be located? We get different aspects where sovereignty can be located. I go now come now. Not forget, I don't tell you things about sovereignty. I don't explain her. I don't tell you the name of the man when propaganda this guy will call sovereignty, the year he propaganda and the year the man live and die. I also told you the man is a witness, is a French philosopher and a political thinker. I gave you the types of sovereignty. Observe, political, legal, de facto, de jure. I also analyze what we call characteristics and feature of witness sovereignty. Absoluteness, indivisibility, permanence, sovereignty, comprehensiveness. Please, bros, I beg you, as you start this video, do not procrastinate. Watch the video to the end. If you never still get and go back again, watch it to the end until you don't grab within there. Above all, make sure say you subscribe. Subscribe to my channel so you can be getting all my updates. Subscribe, share, and like the video. Oh, yes, yeah. The last part I will treat for sovereignty is what we call location of sovereignty in a state. 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 Class. Location of sovereignty in a state. One, we have presidential system. We have parliamentary system. We have federal. We have unitary. We have confederal. We have military. Observe. Now, in a presidential system of government, location of sovereignty in a state, where can sovereignty be located? Now, in a presidential system of government, sovereignty resides with the electorate. I beg now the answer be that. Class, in a presidential system of government, where can you find sovereignty? Now, where? Electorate. In a parliamentary system of government, sovereignty lies with the prime minister. with the prime minister or head of government. In a parliamentary system of government, sovereignty lies with the prime minister or head of government. Keep on. Then in a federal system, sovereignty also lies with the electorate. With the electorate. In a unitary system, where can you find sovereignty? Sovereignty lies with the central government. In a confederal system of government, where can you find sovereignty? Sovereignty lies with the component unit. Observe. In a military system, where can you find sovereignty? Sovereignty lies with the head of state. Observe. It never finish. It never finish. Keep on. Then we have another one. In a democracy, where can you find sovereignty? Sovereignty also lies with the electorate. Electorate. You see so? Or you observe. In a dictatorial government, sovereignty lies with the dictator. Sovereignty lies with what? The dictator. Then in a monarchical system of government, sovereignty lies with the monarch or royalty. Sovereignty lies with the monarch or waiting royalty. So these are the vital aspects. Then in a feudal system, that is feudalism. In a feudal system, sovereignty lies with the feudal lords. In a feudal system, sovereignty lies with una, the feudal lord. So this is the last part for sovereignty. So location of sovereignty in a state, I beg if they ask you, under location of sovereignty in a state, in a presidential Oyanaka, where can you find sovereignty? Electorate. In a parliamentary, where can you find sovereignty? Prime minister or waiting head of government. In a federal system, where can you find sovereignty? Electorate. In a unitary, where can you find sovereignty? Central government. What of confederal? Component unit. What of military? Head of state. Now, in democracy, where can you find sovereignty? It lies with the electorate. Then, in a dictatorial government, where the sovereignty resides, now still we're a dictator. Then, in a feudal system, sovereignty lies with what? The feudal lords. Then, in a monarchical system, sovereignty lies with the monarch or royalty. Are we there now? Okay. Now, let's talk about legitimacy. Legitimacy. Observe class. Make sure you watch the video to the end. Watch it to the end. Oh yeah, see him. More continue. Who be this guy? I don't explain this guy. Who be this guy? Legitimacy. Observe. The word legitimacy was gotten from a Latin root also. A Latin root. This guy called legitimus. The word legitimacy was gotten from a Latin root called legitimus. Now, the word legitimus, what does it mean? It means to be lawful. It means to be lawful. Observe. I tell you, say the word sovereignty was derived from a Latin root called superanos, which means supremacy. But the word legitimacy was derived from a Latin root called legitimus. The word legitimus, what does it mean? It means to be lawful. Therefore, now let's define legitimacy. Legitimacy can be defined as the general acceptance and recognition of governmental principles by the citizens. When you hear the word legitimacy, it means the general acceptance and recognition of governments by the citizen or the people. Whether you like them or you don't like them or you don't get choice. Example, now check out Tinubu as Nigerian's president. He is actually recognized by the citizens as Nigeria's president. Two, he is accepted. Whether you like it, you don't like it, he is there. You already know that you're president. You don't get choice. You don't accept it, you don't accept that. There is nothing you can do about it. It falls under legitimacy. So when you hear the word legitimacy, it means the general acceptance and recognition of government by the citizen. But if I can see something like this, the supremacy of the state to make and enforce law without any interference, wetin go be my answer? Sovereignty. But if I hear the general acceptance and recognition of government by the people or citizen, what will be my answer? Legitimacy. Are we there? But legitimacy was derived from which root? A Latin root called legitimus, which means to be lawful. But sovereignty was derived from a Latin root called superanos, which means supremacy. All right. Now the last part for this guy, which is legitimacy. Now we are going to look at the factor. What are those factors that determine legitimacy? What are those factors that need to be put in place to determine what legitimacy, class? One of the factors that determine legitimacy is what we call periodic, free, and fair election. Periodic, free, and fair election is one of the factors that determine legitimacy. Another factor that determines legitimacy is what we call popular support. Another factor is what we call popular support. Popular support. Then we also have good government. We have what we call good government. Another one is what we call rule of law. Rule of law is another factor that determines legitimacy. They also have what we call basic necessity of life. We have basic necessity of life. Then we also have relation with foreign countries. We also have what we call relation with foreign countries. Then we also have what we call tolerance of opposition. Tolerance of opposition. So these are the factors, the major factors that determine legitimacy. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I will see you guys in my next video. I hope you guys will go through this video from beginning to end so you understand everything. And most especially, make sure you subscribe, you like, and share. Thank you very much. I remain the Socialist.